It's 6:30, so I'm going to gavel in just a moment if people would like to find their seats. Thank you. I would like to call this first meeting of the 2025-2026 school year to order. We have scouts from Troop 109 and 323 who will come up and lead us in the pledge. And I would ask that at the end of the pledge, you all remain standing because it will be followed by a moment of silence to honor the memory of a Sunrise Middle School 8th grade graduate. Thank you. Thank you very much. May I have roll call, please?
Here.
Mr. Pantera?
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Here.
Dr. Lim?
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Cummings.
Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. President Greenberg, I would like to offer the agenda as posted.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. Prior to the meeting, we received no blue public comment cards, so no one out there has asked us to pull anything. Does any member of the board wish to move anything from the consent agenda to items for approval? Going once, going twice, seeing none. Dr. Lee, may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommended consent agenda items as presented?
I don't have the exact language written down in front of me.
You can just say so moved.
I motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Anybody want to go first? Mrs. Wani?
It's so hot outside. So hot outside. So I will keep brief. I don't know why that's connected, but it feels like it is. I just want to welcome everybody back to PV and to school. It kind of feels like it happened fast, like we were just here. So that's strange, but I hope everybody had a wonderful summer. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited that my children are back in school. Welcome again to Dr. Cummings. I'm excited for this year and this governing board and all the wonderful things that I hope we'll be able to do together, and to get to come out to see all of you at your sites and to learn more about all of you. And so just welcome and thank you to cabinet. And this is my last thing. Thank you to all of the effort that has gone into supporting the governing board and helping us be informed. And I see and appreciate the additions and the standardized information that we're getting. And they've also given us the information. We're getting the information many more days in advance than we were before. So I'm incredibly grateful. It helps us do, I think, the best job we possibly can. So thank you. Seriously, thank you so much. I know it's extra work for you all. So welcome back. And again, excited for this school year.
Thank you, Ms. Wani. Mrs. Christensen?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first governing board meeting of this school year. Whether you're joining us online or in person, whether it's your first or your 251st board meeting, we welcome you, and we always welcome the community to be here with us today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our students, staff, families, and community members as we begin what we hope will be a successful and rewarding year. I'm especially pleased to welcome our new superintendent, Dr. Cummings, and our new board secretary, Rochelle. We're excited to have you both on board and look forward to your leadership and your support in our district. So thank you both. As we begin this school year, I am hopeful for continued progress in academic achievement. I remain committed to fiscal responsibility with our taxpayer dollars while ensuring resources are directed to support our students in the classroom, particularly in support of our teachers, who a lot of them are here today. And we hope that we can get you some competitive salaries or high quality local training opportunities whenever possible. And I also want to emphasize the importance of school safety and ensuring that every student and staff member feels secure and supported in their learning environment. Lastly, I want to thank all the community members that have reached out to us board members over the summer. While individual board members cannot independently resolve concerns, we really appreciate that we can be your voice up here. So I just wanted to say thank you. And we just want to say that we ensure that your voice is heard and that input is directed to the appropriate district leaders. So here's to a strong and successful school year ahead.
Thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Mr. Pantera?
Oh, thank you, President Greenberg. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Back to school. That's the whole thing. My running club did a theme. They do themes sometimes, and this time they did a back to school running event. We had to dress like back to school. Everybody dressed like a student for one of their favorite schools they attended. I was the only one that showed up as a teacher. They said, "What's the deal? What's the deal, Tony?" Well, I've gone back to school more as a teacher than I ever did as a student. You know, that's really, I was a student for how long, and then 40 some years as educator. And one part of my routine is always going to Eagle Ridge, the Ridge, and signing up for the PTSA, paying my dues there, make sure I'm board there. Other organizations around the district here do the same thing. A plug for my Elks Lodge. They had an event where they gave free backpacks and school supplies to students to coming back. Oh, and by the way, if any third grade teachers or schools out there needs dictionaries, they have a special program to give free dictionaries. So hit them up for those. But you see that around the district. There's churches, there's other organizations that are doing all kinds of back to school things for their students. You know, not just the parents, not just the PTSAs. And it's that cohesion, that interface of all these groups that really make me very happy and full of hope that we as a community can keep going forward together and make sure our students have another great successful year.
Thank you, Mr. Pantera. Dr. Lim?
Great. So as everyone else, I'd like to welcome everyone back to the school year. It's an exciting time to be back. It's exciting to see all the faces back at the school. I have the littlest kiddos in the room. Both of my kids just started back at Whispering Winds Academy. My youngest, for those of you who may not know, spent 2 months in the hospital at the end of the school year. She's doing really well, and it was really great to see her welcomed into the classroom. The principal, the nurse, many other staff knew who she was before she even walked in the door, so she felt super welcomed. And her sister knows everyone, and so it was a whole parade for the first day we arrived, which was Meet the Teacher Night, which was an amazing time to see everyone, but also a reminder that we hit the ground running here really fast, with the teachers returning very quickly into the classroom to have the students show up not long after that. And sometimes our buildings aren't ready. Sometimes the air hasn't been turned on in a classroom in a while, and we find out that a couple classrooms aren't working, and people come out and fix it, and it's not working again the next day. So I showed up in both my daughter's classrooms, the air conditioning wasn't working. But by the next day, when I came back to talk as a leader for one of the parent groups, those classrooms, the district had come together and staff were already on site fixing those classrooms so that Monday morning, those kids are going to have air conditioning in those classrooms. And more important, the teachers who are rushing to set up their classrooms were able to set up comfortably. So I appreciate that not only are the teachers hitting the ground running, but our facilities team and groups all over, like transportation and other areas, are also hitting the ground running very quickly and dealing with many, many issues that are snowballing across all of our schools and sites very quickly and mitigating them so fast. This allows us to have our students start and have us parents feel comfortable sending our kids to the classroom, knowing not only do they have amazing teachers, but they have air conditioning in this lovely heat. So I appreciate seeing the district come together very quickly because all the smiling faces showing up, we're so excited to be there and ready to meet their teachers and ready to start school. So I appreciate seeing everyone again. I appreciate the school year starting, and I appreciate the warm welcome that is happening all over the district for many of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. I just want to say welcome as well. And yeah, start of a school year is always amazing. I always used to love getting the new books and getting the pencil sharpened and getting your pen, just all the supplies and what you're going to do with them and meet the teacher. And it's incredibly exciting to just see that replicated student after student after student, teacher after teacher after teacher, parent after parent after parent in our district. I do want to thank everyone on staff, starting with Dr. Cummings in cabinet and on down, and every teacher in the classroom, every teacher out of the classroom, every staff member for making paradise paradise and for welcoming our kiddos back, welcoming our families. And I I really think we are in such an amazing place right now in terms of where we can go this year as a district, as in each of our schools and each of our students and every staff member in terms of professional development, in terms of moving forward. And so I look forward to hearing about everybody's journeys of excellence as we go through this year. And just one more thank you and welcome back. And with that, I return to the agenda. We have no awards and recognitions this evening, but I'm sure we will starting next meeting. So next on the agenda is superintendent comments. Dr. Cummings.
Thank you, President Greenberg. First, I want to join the governing board and say welcome back to school, everyone. This week, I got to visit several of our schools. It's so nice to have all of our staff and students back with us. From sunrise at transportation to new faces at kindergarten, the preschool parents, the seniors who chatted about their college, trade school, and military plans. I look forward to starting this new chapter with you. I'm grateful to the governing board for the opportunity. Thank you. PV Schools remains a premier district of choice built on a foundation of cutting-edge opportunities, innovative learning experiences, collaboration, and an unwavering commitment to student success. I'm looking forward to a great year and continuing to meet and listen to all of our stakeholders. I'd like to continue by congratulating our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance, Ms. Jill Berrigan, on her winning the William Lovett Memorial Award. The award is the highest individual recognition given annually by the Arizona Association of School Business Officials to an outstanding member for their significant contributions and impact on the organization and profession. I think we can clap. That's pretty significant. I'd like to thank Gene Copeland and Dr. Andrea Cunningham for the amazing PV Schools of Rock All Admin Professional Learning. Thank you to the staff at Paradise Valley High School, Sherry Lindsay, and the Pride of Paradise Marching Band, as well as Explorer Middle School's Braving the Birds band members, student Ellie Walker, guitarist and current 8th grader Explorer, student Jacob Cole, drummer and now 9th grader at Pinnacle, and Explorer teachers Stephanie Akamus and Tyler Allen. Thank you to our new teacher mentors, Jen Hudson, Blake Ryder, Amy Zupke, Ivy Violet, and Rosemary Jacob. Welcome to our new teachers, especially all those PV Schools alum who've returned to teach. It was amazing to see them raise their hand at new teacher orientation. In PV Schools, we engage, inspire, and nurture students through high quality instruction, meaningful education opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. One of these experiences is our dual enrollment program, Recently, PV Schools hosted its first ever district-wide dual enrollment registration event, which was an amazing success. A huge thank you goes to Paradise Valley High School for hosting the event and to our outstanding partners from the Maricopa County Community College System, Paradise Valley Community College, and Rio Salado for providing knowledgeable and enthusiastic teams to guide PV Schools families through the dual enrollment process. The event truly exemplifies district and community collaboration and action, expanding access and opportunities for all of our students. This week, I met with Marisha Garrity and Linda Shredzinski from Volunteers in Paradise. To all the VIPs I've met so far, thank you. I'm looking forward to supporting this amazing program and watching the fantastic ways you support our district and students. Our annual update, PV Schools wants to remind families to please complete the annual update for the 25-26 school year. This is an opportunity to update your contact information, including address changes, phone number changes, as well as emergency contact information. The online annual update has replaced the printed emergency card and can be found by visiting portal.pvschools.net. And thank you, President Greenberg. That concludes my comments this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cummings. And now we move to items for approval. So next on the agenda is approval of item G1, consideration and if deemed advisable, approve the authorization of the issuance and sale of school improvement bonds of the district, resolution 583. Ms. Berrigan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Greenberg and governing board members and Dr. Cummings. I think, is this the right presentation now? Nope. This is it. Okay. So it is time again for the district to sell bonds. The bonds do fund our construction projects that happen throughout the district, many of which happened over the summer. And as is typical, our facilities team worked very hard to ensure that those were completed before school started. There were a few that cut it quite close. We had backup plans, but we didn't actually have to implement any of those backup plans. So moving forward, our next sale is recommended for $97 million. Oh, and actually, before I forget, one of the most important things there at the top, the credit ratings. We have an AA1 with Moody's and a AAA with Fitch. Very important for us to have incredible credit ratings. That's just like the same as your personal credit rating. The better your credit rating, the better borrowing rate that you receive. So with selling 97 million this round, we will have 168 million remaining of the 340 that was approved by our voters in 2023. And these will be paid back from a period of 2026 through 2044. And then the all-in true interest cost right now estimated to be at 3.9%. Once the sale is complete, we will know exactly what those all went for and report that back to the board. But usually we estimate pretty conservatively here, so hopefully we'll get better than that 3.9%. And I would just say we do have folks with us from Stiefel, Megan Burke from Stiefel, Bill Davis from Piper, and then Jim Giel, who is our attorney on our bond sales, if there are any legal or financial questions that I may not be able to answer. And with that, well, actually, happy to answer any questions first.
We need to make a motion first, so
Sure.
do you want me to do that, or you want to just?
Well,
thank
the
our
last thing I was
voters?
going to say is thank you to our PVUSD voters. Obviously, without this, without their votes, we would not be able to do this. But that was the last thing I wanted to
Yeah.
say.
Then we can go right into it. Dr. Lim, may I please have a motion to consider and if deemed advisable, approve the authorization of the issuance and sale of school improvement bonds of the district, resolution 583 as presented.
I move that the governing board considers and if deemed advisable, approves the authorization of the insurance and sales of school improved bonds of the district under resolution 583.
Thank you. Now, does any board member have any questions or comments for anyone? Ms. Wani?
Thank you. And thank you all for being here to answer our questions. Appreciate it. So can you, whoever, you might be able to answer this too, just speak to like marking conditions, I guess, generally, and how like, so this 3.9, that's kind of a conservative,
Mhm,
anticipated interest cost.
mhm.
How does that compare to past times and just like market conditions generally?
Ms. Swanee, I'd have to go back to remember what our previous ones are. Obviously, market conditions go up and down. They can change. I remember my very first sale here in Paradise Valley. We don't just decide and then the next day bring this to the board. And so it's been a long time in planning and approved by the board, and we go out to sale on that day. And the night before, Russia invaded Ukraine. And so things change, things like that happen, and they change what happens in the market those days. But I would maybe just ask, probably, Bill, do you want to talk about any recent sales, or Megan, if either of you have done any recent sales, if you'll come up here? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cummings. My name is Bill Davis. I'm with the firm of Piper Sandler, and we're serving as financial advisor to the district for the sale of bonds. And Megan Burke is here too, and maybe she can jump in. The market has actually been pretty stable over the last 4 to 6 weeks. Mid-spring, we saw a lot of volatility with the tariffs. The markets kind of went crazy, one of those events that Jill referenced that can happen overnight. But we have seen, stability with slightly declining rates. As you all know, the Fed's, been under a lot of pressure, but, they're kind of standing by with the thought that towards the end of the year, they are going to lower rates. Treasury rates have been kind of anticipating that. And our muni rates, the tax exempt bonds that the district, potentially will be selling, kind of follows. It's not a direct correlation all the time, but it's close. So generally, we're in a great market. Megan's firm, Stiefel, has underwritten a couple transactions this week, one of which we were involved with on Tuesday. It was for an Arizona school district, single A rated, so not quite as strong as Paradise Valley. Their all-in true interest cost came in at 4.03. So that's inclusive of all expenses. So, we think that this is a fairly conservative estimate in, today's market conditions. Megan, I don't know if you want to add.
Madam President, members of the governing board, also thank you for having me here tonight. I would agree with what Bill said. The market has, kind of stabilized since April. The thing that is working in the district's benefit is you have very high credit ratings and the size of the transaction is larger. So those two elements are gathering or garnering more investor interest. What the deals that are smaller and have lower credit ratings are the deals that are kind of sluggish or struggling in the market. So we anticipate to, achieve rates around 4 or under 4%. Yeah.
And thank you so much. And that's so helpful to understand. And just one quick sort of follow up. So you had said, Ms. Berrigan, that think of it like our own credit ratings, right?
Mhm.
So is it kind of like we can think about PV debt to, not income, but revenue, or right, like budget, I guess. I mean, they're looking at what is our outstanding debt. They're looking at all of those things and our repayment and all of that.
The investors are really looking at what your credit rating is, but they're also looking at the credit of the Paradise Valley School District name. We did Tempe Elementary today, which also has, given its location, proximity, ASU Tempe, it's very well received. Investors know of Tempe much more than they do some, more rural districts. So it really is a testament to the district and how the district is running itself, and, your budget and your surpluses and things of that nature.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Wani, if I can add to that, we generally in the sales since I've been here and prior to my time, because of the reputation, the good credit rating, the size of the district, the size of the sales, we will have multiple orders for each set of bond, meaning we have more requests than bonds that we can actually sell. So.
Does Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, thank you all for being here to answer our questions. And thanks to Mrs. Berrigan for putting this information together for us. This is a question regarding the 97 million. How did we come up with that number? Are these earmarked in any way yet? Or how do we determine how much we are going to put up for sale?
Yes, Mrs. Christensen, when I work to determine the dollar amount for each bond sale, I check in mostly with Dr. Davis. Obviously, most of the projects are construction projects, and get his estimate for what he believes will be next in the pipeline. Then I check with Mr. Billings because we have a technology component within our bond pamphlet that was approved by voters. Check in with Mrs. Kayas in our procurement department, our director for purchasing. She helps us with all of the furniture refreshes that are happening at our schools. And then we do buses. We have an amount in there each year for buses, and so get an estimate from our director of transportation. Combine all of that together, and in this instance, this will probably be the start. It's hard to believe, but it will probably be the start of the next rebuild that the district does in terms of at least the architecture fees, and maybe even some of GMP1 will be incorporated within the 97 million.
When you say next rebuild, as we know, Indian Bend is being, you're
Yeah.
talking about a total different school, not the next phase of Indian Bend, correct?
Not the
'Cause
next
that's-
phase of Indian Bend. We have that in our current bond. It'd be the next, in this bond, we talked about with the bond committee, we would rebuild likely 2 elementary schools and probably 1 middle school. So it'll be a determination next of whether we're moving forward with a middle school or an elementary school.
Earlier, it was definitely last school year. I can't remember if it was definitely last fiscal year. We had talked about possibly going for another override, but it was my understanding that we're not doing that this election year.
Correct. The DAA override, District Additional Assistance, which is capital, currently at $6,410,000 annually. 6 million of that is used for curriculum purposes. So when we're adopting new curriculum, and the remainder is used for white fleet vehicle purchases in the district, which bond cannot be used for. We could have gone out 1 year early in this year, November of 2026. But in talking with folks, it seemed to make more sense to go out the same year as we're going to go out for the M&O override, which will be November of 2027, and have them both on the same ballot. And that way, efforts and costs and no additional costs for elections. And when you have an election at that time, then it makes more sense to kind of combine 2 questions at the
Okay.
same time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else? Dr. Lim?
So for those of us that are new to the bond space and just trying to wrap our mind around how this process works, can you talk a little bit about, how long are we selling bonds? Obviously, you've mentioned that we get more requests than we have for bonds. So does that mean we have multiple investors that are interested in purchasing the bonds? Can you just talk a little bit more in detail about that
Yeah.
for us novices?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great question. So first of all, this probably goes without saying, but just to make sure it's clear, we ask our voters for an overall authorization. That happened in November of 2023 for $340 million. We don't sell all $340 million at one time. We sell in phases. If you sell too many bonds and earn too much interest, then you have to pay fees on that. It's called defeasance. And so we can only sell so much at a time. The point is not to earn interest on the bond. The point is to have those proceeds to be able to do bond projects throughout the district. So we sell based off of the needs that I shared with you and based off of what's allowed in the voter pamphlet. And the sale happens on one day. Is it a 1 hour window or a 2 hour window? I forget. Generally, okay, I'm right between. Generally a 90-minute window. If anybody wants to come to my office that day and watch the sales happen, you can do so. We get a screen, we get it live, we get to see what's happening and how many requests for each bond. They're sold in increments of $5,000, if I remember correctly. And you can see all of the offerings that are happening. You can see the name of the banks or investors that are interested in purchasing, but all bonds are sold that day. If the instance happens where we don't sell all of our bond issues, sometimes people are interested in the early bonds, sometimes they're interested in the later ones or the middle ones. It's hard to know. Whatever isn't sold, then they will purchase them from their bank, and then they can work later to be able to sell those or keep them as they wish for their bonds.
Thank you for that clarification. That helped.
Welcome.
Mr. Pantera, do you have any questions?
No, just a comment. Again, this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for, like I was talking about before, our great community,
Yeah.
making sure we can sell these, that they pass these bonds and overrides, et cetera. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank the community again as well. We have always had the support of our community in terms of going out. There's the past 20-some years, there's been once where we unfortunately had an item on the back of a ballot and it didn't pass, but it passed the next time. But I think our bonds have always gone out. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for the information. Does anybody have anything? Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And yeah, let us know when that bond sale is going. Yeah, I do. Seriously, I do. All right, next on the agenda is, sorry, I'm moving paper here, is item G2. The governing board will discuss and may consider action to approve in whole or in part the draft 2026 political agenda of the Arizona School Boards Association and direct the district's delegate to the ASBA Delegate Assembly to represent the board's determined position. We all have at our desk the draft agenda that was sent to us by ASBA, and I did not see a whole lot of changes in here, but the process will be, and actually, I don't know, Mr. Pantera, do you want to take over since you were the delegate last year in terms of the process?
Well, again, whatever we decide here, when I go to that meeting, I will vote and speak to the things we've discussed here. I won't go on my own. Like last year, remember we added the ROTC portion and that, but whatever we decide here, based on these documents, what I go and vote for. But again, it could go any way. We're just one school board amongst all of them.
So in looking at talking about last year, I think they're doing the same system, which is just looking at the changes that they
Yeah, the
gave
red
us.
part.
Did
Oh my
you
God.
find that going into the meeting that other districts were proposing changes on the floor? Were there a lot of, and that's
Last time there
obviously
was,
something we can do
I
here too.
did a change on the floor, but there weren't that many.
Okay.
And some of them, most of them didn't get passed, actually. People try to make changes on the floor. It's basically, if it's here, these are the things that people are going to be voting on for the most part. But it can happen.
Right.
And I try to support, if I don't think it supports what we've decided as a group, then I won't vote against it. If I'm not sure, I just don't vote. Okay,
Makes
does
sense.
that help? Is that to answer
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope everybody got it. There's not a lot, but there obviously are some changes here. I hope everybody got a chance to look through. And does anybody have any comments? I do want to remind people there are, scouts here who need to hear this discussion. And so if, we don't agree, that's cool too. But does anybody have any comments on what we got from ASBA? Ms. Wani?
I just want to make sure I understand. So where the discussion is really about the redlined changes, and that's it. Pretty right. I mean, we can have general, I guess, feedback and comments, but that's what their focused vote is about.
That's what their focus vote is about. Now, if we would, if we're not happy with something or we think wording isn't great or there's something, then we can vote to direct Mr. Pantera to bring it forth from the floor at the actual delegate assembly. But in general, our vote would be like, hey, if we're cool with this, we approve, and we support Mr. Pantera's yes votes on these or no votes if we don't like something.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, the process that ASBA has used has changed over the years. So right now, they're just more focused on the actual changes. We used to have to go line by line, section by section, whether there were changes or not. So anybody have any, I know Dr. Lim, you said you had looked through. Do you have any comments?
I was just again highlighting the ones that I more that are ones that stand out to me that I think if they're asking for us to support things, there are things that I think are still on here that we supported last time that I think we should continue to stand behind, but none of those look like they have any red marks to them and haven't been changed. So I really have no comments if we're just focusing on the red aspects of the document.
Do we have any additional context for and around the changes? Like were there conversations or discussions where these recommendations were made that other like district members were privy to, or was this kind of done and then given to all, to all governing board members across that are members of ASBA?
Okay, my presumption is that once again, everything that districts submitted went to ASBA's legislative committee. And that committee would be the one, as it says, reviewed and discussed each submitted proposal at its meeting in June. So my presumption would be they looked at what everybody sent in. They've certainly made, there's obvious changes here, now changes also often come in from ASBA staff, specifically government relations, because they're the folks who are going to be down at the Capitol, discussing this with legislators and executive branch members, et cetera. And again, this is an evolution from before. In the past, they have often given us the information like, 10 districts gave us something that said this. So we kind of knew. But again, that process has changed a bit. I haven't been on the committee in a while, so I'm not totally sure when it changed.
And if I might add, sometimes things disappear because they've happened.
Yes.
They've already happened. Okay, we don't need to fight for that because it's happened.
Yeah.
And again, these people on these committees are from all over the state. It's not just one group. And like you said, President Greenboard, I agree that they're gathering all that information that we all submitted, and they're trying to make it fit and see what kind of changes need to be made.
Yeah.
Make the best fit for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw one thing out there just for me. Under Section 4, which is require public accountability and transparency for taxpaying dollars spent on education, they have removed 4, which is always a topic of conversation, and apparently enough folks got tired of seeing it. I personally would not have removed 4. And 5 is something we talk about, but I thought elsewhere they talk about actual, about tax credits, but I could be wrong. Whereas I think 5 makes sense. It still bothers me just in general. I'd rather actually see us,
if nothing else,
exceed the limit for public, for private, because privates now can get vouchers or ESAs if we want to get more technical about it. So 5 sort of bothers me a bit.
I mean, the way it's written.
Well, it's just like if we're going to increase it, let's increase it past. Why match?
President Greenberg, may I
Yes.
request that when we are discussing an item that we read the item out loud so that,
Sure.
because I know we have folks
Thank you.
on YouTube that don't know what number 4 is or section XYZ.
We have folks in the audience who don't know what it is. So just for everybody out there, number 4, which the committee is recommending be dropped, is support policy that encourages all eligible voters to exercise their right to participate in elections. Number 5, which they are recommending be added, is increase public school tax credit donation limits to match those allowed for private schools. Now, this isn't like a hill I'm going to die on, but I personally think it took a lot to get 4 in there, and I'm not really, since they're not explaining their rationale, like we used to get the rationales as well. Like we were supposed to give rationales and we used to get the rationales back.
That's exactly what I'm sort of struggling with a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to sort of like So to that point, and I would agree with what you're stating, which is I too, without context, have a hard time supporting supporting a policy that encourages eligible voters to vote. Just, to me, I don't understand why they would remove it without any context. It's hard to understand that. And then additionally, for me, and again, right, perhaps was some legislation that speaks to an item, but without that cited, right? Again, it doesn't give us the information, right, that we necessarily, or that I would want. So under 2, there's number 6. So under preserve, respect, and strengthen local control. Number 6 used to read support local board authority regarding, or no, sorry, support local board authority for student suspensions and open enrollment policies based on capacity. And it looks like they want to remove for student suspensions. So now it would read support local board authority regarding open enrollment policies. And without knowing more, it's hard for me to understand why would ASBA not advocate for local control and governing boards to have their own policies regarding student suspensions.
And that was the one I was gonna bring up as well, is I would like to know why that's been removed, to be able to support something like that. Has something changed that has made it to where that's not under a local governing board's privy anymore, like, or is that a selective choice they've made to not include it?
Mr. Pantera?
Yeah, my question then is, I would too like to know why some of these were taken out, but we're going to decide today whether or not so I'm going to suspend like number 4, the one about the elections, being a right to vote. What kind of rationale can I accept for the board that for its removal? I'm asking for parameters. Okay, they're going to explain it. We'll ask, but then I could need to know based on their answers whether what might be acceptable reason. Like one acceptable reason maybe it's already been taken care of somehow, right? Like maybe there's something out there that they feel that's protected enough, right? But I'm just asking for some guidance on which way to go once we seek out that information.
Mrs. Christensen?
So, Mr. Pantera, so perhaps, and I don't know this to be fact, but so again, reading it, support policy that encourage all eligible voters to exercise their right to participate in elections. To me, it's not in the purview of ASBA to decide that. I know, and it is not directly related to student achievement and education. And so perhaps that is why I'm just speculating. Maybe perhaps that's why they removed it, because it's really not education related.
Well, and again, we don't know. Although you need to vote for things like bonds and overrides, which do definitely impact student achievement and be able to fund the things we need to have students learn. But we don't know. And so that's what I'm saying. We don't know. We can speculate all we want, but I need advice about how to deal with when I do ask the questions.
President
Dr. Lynn?
Greenberg. And so like I can play investigation and I can see number 12 under 1 has actually been combined with 2G under 1. So they've moved it to say include maintenance and increased costs for CTE in rural schools for transportation, which is what 12 was saying. But I would like to not play investigation and see where they move things and then play hunt for the changes. Not that there's an amazing number of changes in here that might have happened in that way, but it would just be nice for them to clarify where and why that changed so that we can know whether it's something that's still here, it's just in a new place, or whether this is a change based on shifting changes in policy and governance that have led to these.
So you're saying if it's a matter of consolidation, that'd be something that we could support.
I mean, like for that one, it looks like that's what happened. Number 12 is still on here. It's just in a different location that makes more sense. Clearly, it makes more sense to be in this space because it already says transportation. So it makes sense that that one's been removed, but it hasn't technically been removed. It's just in a new location. So it'd be nice to know what's fully removed and what's actually just gone to a new place.
Yeah, and so like, right, so, okay, so number 3 under 6, might be another example of what we're talking about here, right? So 3 and 4. So number 3, it says Arizona school boards call upon all state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased self-harm and violence. It used to say at K through 12 schools. They want it to read in our communities. That sounds reasonable. I can get behind that. And then they're opting to remove number 4 in its entirety. Arizona school boards call upon all state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased gun violence directed to K through 12 schools. I can support this change. I feel like number 3, it captures that. Like that to me is self-explanatory, but I would, some of them are not. So if we kind of go through them in this way, is that helpful to you? Right? Each one of these. Okay.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. So the first addition is Section 1 is adequately and equitably fund district schools to the national median per pupil funding. The second point is provide consistent dedicated sources of base funding. And they would like to add based on most recent statewide cost study. And then it goes on to say that it equips all Arizona public schools with adequate support to address the academic, social, and emotional need of its students, including, and then there is a long list of topics, including, as Dr. Lim pointed out, we have transportation, and they have added in the information from later on where they reduced it. So the changes here are pretty minimal. Does anybody have any issues with these? I don't even want to take a guess why they put based on most recent statewide cost study, but my assumption would be is so that we can do it based on the most up-to-date costs as opposed to, yeah. Well, I'm assuming that there's the suggestion to add based on most recent statewide cost studies is so that we're not stuck with, what worked in the 80s or 90s, but we're doing recent. Okay, the next change is in that same section and it's under 7, where we provide funding for new space before existing schools become overcrowded, advocate for the state facilities board, whatever it's now called, but SFOB, to set a standard for replacement of buildings that have exceeded their useful life, advocate for the SFOB, to use a professional demographer firm in determining school construction, advocate for capacity standards that reflect the design of instructional space, including funding for capital repairs.
See, that to me looks like they just decided 6 might have been too wordy, and they just took portion of it and made it number 7, and then added that red portion that says including funding for capital repairs. Because if there was no 7, then it must have been all part of 6, was all one thing.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Well, 6 was DAA, so I'm not.
Because the 7 is the red part that they added.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? I thought they just added include funding for capital repairs.
Sometimes it's a word problem that if you put something red at the end, it actually can make the number change colors.
Yeah.
I have this issue all the time in agendas, so I don't think it's red on purpose. I think it's a hallmark of Word that if you add red text towards the end of a bullet, it will change the bullet points color.
Kind of like a typo thing.
Yeah.
A fault in the word system.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that is they just sort of added something and everything else. This is a mixture of who the verb is for. So is it for the legislature, provide funding for new space? Is it for ASBA, advocate for, and then we just have include. So I don't know if that really shouldn't be a semicolon.
But also everything else in this bullet is around dealing with schools that need to be replaced. And now it's talking about repair. So are we replacing buildings with this bullet point or are we repairing buildings in this bullet point? So if they want to repair buildings, it seems like it needs to be its own separate bullet point versus tacking it on to this one that's seems solely about replacing buildings.
Actually, Mrs. Berrigan, if I could ask, State Facilities Board, they would jump in on capital repairs, would they not? Or is it only replace? What does it do? I mean, I know it has sort of shifted a little bit over time. So what is the mission of?
Yep, President Greenberg, it's both.
Okay.
But the replacement schools are actually a newer feature. That is something that schools have been asking for many, many years, and they're only recently approving them, and there's even some legal battles around that. So it's actually more for repairs and upgrades is what SFD is currently funding.
Okay. So it could be that they sat down and realized they had not included the traditional repairs and put this in. Okay, I can buy that. Mrs. Christensen?
So just an overall comment. I find this to be an exercise in futility. I'm not sure if I'm using that term correctly, but it just, one district, and we don't even understand what a lot of the background in why they changed this, and I don't find it useful to talk about periods and semicolons because I personally don't agree with the majority of this being a political agenda, which I'm fine with because I know that we represent the entire board. And so I could nitpick almost every single item, but I just think as a whole, we should look at this more holistically because it's really not going to change unless, please correct me if you feel I'm wrong, especially for Mr. Pantera, because I know that he's going to represent us as a whole, but I'm getting a little bit just frustrated or angsty because it just, to me, I think we're spending a lot of time and I don't see the benefit of that.
Thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Dr. Lim?
So I think just going through and looking at this, like this would be one that where I would almost want to advocate for it to be 2 bullet points because this is in a larger context right now around, other states that are just trying to get funding for capital repairs and get repairs in their schools. So I think this may be added for the larger discourse that's happening in other states where they're just not getting money for repairs. It seems like a larger social discourse that if we want to focus on both, I almost feel like it needs to be its own separate bullet point that let's not bucket them into the same thing because a new building, tearing down and rebuilding is different than a repair. And we might get more traction with a separate bullet point with just repairs than a bullet point with repairs and rebuild because the costs are significantly different. And so it almost, just going through it, I'm just like, well, maybe that should just be its own bullet point because it feels like that might have a more positive path forward to change, to just ask for better support around the repairs versus rebuild, which is a significant cost, as we know with our bonds. So,
Mrs. Christensen?
So just point of clarification. So this is the Arizona School Boards
Mhm.
Association. We're not, when
Yeah,
you
no,
say
no, it
other
just- there's
states,
this
are you talking
bigger
about
s-
like outside of Arizona?
there's just a bigger social
Are you-
context right now where there are districts outside in other states that are seeing significant repair issues.
Okay.
And those buildings are really falling apart. We're lucky to be a district that is not in that space and have
Well,
amazing
even within
support around that.
our own
And that
state,
is
that's
within
the
our own
case.
state too,
Yeah.
in the rural spaces and things like that. But it just, I think it's it may have come to their attention more than just what's happening in our state, but it's a larger discourse socially right now. There's been a few stories out of multiple other states about rural schools that are just in tatters. And I know we've had some locally as well, but I'm just saying it may have come to their attention that it wasn't on here because there's a bigger conversation around it around school districts right now in general. So yeah, nothing, I think, political about it, just more that it's in the news right now. And that might be why it got flagged up. And to me, it's like, well, if we're going to flag it up, why don't we flag it up independently? And it might have better traction as its own bullet point than tacked on to this larger complex bullet point.
Mhm.
Well, I think, and I'm sorry. I think if you look at 8, I think 8 sort of speaks to that a little bit more. And I suspect they sort of looked at this one and go, we took that out of State Facilities Board and we should put it back. That would be my guess. Mrs. Christensen?
Yeah, the other thing that we just, as we're looking at this, I think we all support local control. So why I think it's very, it's it's very good that they're trying to do this at the state level. This has to go, they lobby through the legislature. They make state law, state statute, but we are very fortunate that we, as long as we're abiding by state law, that we can decide a lot of the nuances based on how PV needs to work. And so I'm very grateful for that. And just a comment, because I think we're spending a lot of time and it may not be a big impact on us and the whole. So,
If
but-
I may, I would just add that, I agree with what you said, and I'm to a point. I think it's important that we continue to advocate and that ASBA continue to advocate for those things because they could go away. And we've seen some of that local control be questioned, and I think it's important that we, as long as we're going to be affiliated, or a membership with ASBA, I think it's important for us to go through this process and to continue to sort of advocate as well for that local control, because I know no one on this board wants to see that go away. So I think that it's important for that to just remain, right, like at the forefront of advocacy, so that we make sure, right, there's never a question that goes away. And I agree. I'm also a little frustrated with this process. It's not our fault, right? And poor Tony has to go and know what to do. So I feel like we need to do this for Tony so Tony can go and advocate appropriately. And if there's an opportunity, perhaps you might be able to advocate and share that our frustration a little bit, that without the context, we're spending a lot of time
Oh, I will.
guessing, and it's kind of frustrating. And I'm just not sure why they would do it this way. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, yeah. And thank you for being the person to go do this. We appreciate you. I know you're probably glad it's not you. I'm glad it's not me.
Okay, so Amanda is do you still think we should?
I mean, if
Are you
it
good
feels like
with-
it's part of 8,
Okay.
or if it feels like we are kicking a can down a road, it's not helping us. It's not like trying to get them to change it, as Tony said, lots of things got proposed on the floor and yours is the one that ended up on there. Like, I have no problem supporting something like this. It just seems a little disjointed, like it's going to become its own bullet
But
point
what I'm
later.
hearing is if somebody were to suggest, let's split this up and make a bullet point, that'd be something I should be supporting.
Sure.
I think it would make more sense, but it's also,
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to change anything significantly. So I think anything that's been removed or changed or moved, I don't seem to have any major issues with. Besides, I would like some clarification around student suspension before supporting taking that out and not
Yeah.
having that under local
Without
board authority.
100%. And without more context, I don't support it.
Yeah,
Like,
that one I don't
absolutely
support.
number 6.
And it sounds like Ann, you were the same way with 4 later on. So,
Okay.
but everything else, nothing jumps out.
Okay, so you're saying
So 2.6 would be the one that removes local board control regarding student suspension.
okay, so section 2, preserve, respect, and strengthen local control. Number 6, they're reworking it to remove student suspension and kind of adding in, it's hard to tell.
So they want it to say,
So it would,
support local board authority regarding open enrollment policies.
Policies.
It used to read, support local board authority support local board authority for student suspensions and open enrollment based on capacity.
right.
It just seems like an odd thing to do.
So, yeah, so we would prefer it not change unless there is, I mean, I don't remember if something happened in the legislature regarding suspensions. That might have impacted that. Okay, so we're good on that page. There's only one change on page 3. In essence, to change. So this is under improve opportunities, outcomes for all students. Number 8. support policy that protects school district employees and students. They want to change it to say from all types of discrimination, period, as opposed to just saying including, shouldn't say just, including on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, I think, to just make it more of a blanket statement. Does anybody have any issues with those? This is now page 3, section 3, number 8. It's the only one on that page that has a change. So we're all pretty, I think, we're all pretty good with that one. Yeah, the next, excuse me, the next one is the one that we already talked about. I certainly have issues with it. Both of them. If they want to put 5 in, I'd rather have it exceed as opposed to match. That would be my preference. And I also, yeah, I'm not sure what the explanation would be on taking 4 out. That, because I do think, you know, governing board members are elected, bonds and overrides are put on, you know, facility sales. There's a number of election pieces that impact a school district and obviously learning by our students. So any other, okay. If not, we have a few more here on this page. Under school safety and security, number 3, there's just the change from at K-12 schools to in our school communities. And then 4, I think we talked about, is now somewhat melded into 3. So does anybody have any issues there? No. And then the last one, under federal advocacy, simply changes oppose efforts that would reduce or interrupt to protect impact aid funding and the Secure Rural Schools program for Arizona school districts that receive it. So that seems to be a pretty easy change. Okay. So does anybody have any other questions or comments on the ASBA political agenda? So, Dr. Lim, may I please have a motion to approve the draft 2026 political agenda of the ASBA as we discussed, and direct the district's delegate to the ASBA Delegate Assembly to represent the board's determined position as presented.
I move to approve the governing board's approval of the revision of the draft of the 2016 political agenda for the Arizona School Board Association, and direct our delegate for the ASBH Delegate Assembly to represent our position as discussed.
And I probably should have done that before we had the discussion, but we'll pretend it was all part of the process. Anybody have any other comments to make? Seeing none, yes, Mrs. Christensen.
Thank you, Tony, for volunteering to.
We owe Tony dinner
Yes.
or something.
We appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, it's a thrill a minute down there. It's great.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is acceptance of gifts and donations. For the start of the school year, we had quite a number, and I'd like to highlight a few. Dorito Partners gave $1,000 for rewards for students at Echo Mountain Intermediate. The PV Schools Education Foundation gave Paradise Valley High School $2,790 for summer school for JAG students. And the Musical Instrument Museum gave the PV Fine Arts Department $4,000 as for bus expenses for MIM field trips. And then in total, I'd like to thank the Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust, who gave more than $15,000 donation for resources that support education with access to students in need. And that was distributed among Cactus View Elementary, Campobello Elementary, Eagle Ridge, Echo Mountain Primary, Hidden Hills, Indian Bend, Larkspur, and Palomino Primary. So again, thank you to all our donors. We very much appreciate your support of our schools, our students, our educators. And with that, Dr. Lynn, may I have a motion to accept gifts and donations, please?
A motion to accept gifts and donations.
Does any board member have any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is call to the public, and I'd like to direct your attention to the video.
Call to the Public is about to convene. This portion of today's meeting allows the public the opportunity to address the governing board. Although state law does not require that the governing board hold a call to the public, the Paradise Valley Unified School District and its board have chosen to do so because we believe it's important to hear about concerns and issues from our community. While Call to the Public is not designed to be a discussion, the board is here to listen. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take any action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you and address individual concerns. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand, and to be able to do so in an open and collaborative way. All in attendance are expected to observe meeting rules, as well as rules of politeness and decorum, so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner.
Thank you. Tonight we have one person who has submitted a comment card, and she will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, not that I need to, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. And please state your first and last name when you come to the podium. And our speaker tonight is Heather Schmidt.
Good evening, President Greenberg, Dr. Cummings, Governing Board, and Cabinet. Apologies for being the public comment person. My name is Heather Schmidt. I'm the proud president of the Paradise Valley Education Association. And now that we are officially, let's say, round numbers, a week and a half into the first week of school for our certified staff, I want to express some thank yous on behalf of PVEA and the certified group. First of all, thank you to our governing board members who were able to join us last Tuesday for the new certified employee orientation. This is a really unique event in that PVEA kind of gets to take the lead on the final pre-service day for our newest educators to the district. And this is not a privilege that we take lightly. We value this partnership and collaboration in making this event successful. And your presence there speaks to that relationship, and we very much appreciate it. To the cabinet, thank you all for being there as well and joining us in welcoming our newest educators. My biggest disappointment probably of my year is that I was ill and not able to be there myself. But I know that my team had an amazing event, and they thoroughly enjoyed welcoming over 180 new educators to the profession and to Paradise Valley. Additionally, on behalf of the certified group, we are thrilled to welcome our students back. In my role, I'm not in the classroom anymore, and I have jumped at every chance I could this week to get back out into schools and into classrooms and seeing our kiddos getting used to routines, getting back into the swing of things, putting their cell phones away and focusing on work. And so thank you to our students for being here. We are grateful to have every single one of you as students in our district. On top of that, I will also say a big thank you to transportation and facilities. They are working their tails off to make sure that our schools are comfortable and safe for students and that they're arriving safely at school. So again, appreciate all of you. Thank you for the work we're doing, and I look forward to a fabulous 25-26 working with all of you in support of the employees of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no items for discussion this evening. So before we adjourn, I'd like to remind you that the next regular board meeting will be held on August 21, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Dr. Lynn, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn the meeting.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's our last chance to argue for the Any opposed? No. Okay, sorry, didn't do it. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.
First meeting, nicely done.
Yeah, I did want to let you know that, because I've had comments from people, even you spoke